So I suppose this is like, I strike this as one of our most important bits, just not just because it keeps Annie happy, but it was like our first diversification.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Our first sort of real thing away from farming. And it was a bit of a jump because Annie had a really good business down in Hampshire, where I dragged her up from when we got married, as a riding instructor. And obviously you can't bring clients with you.
Yeah.
So she wanted a setup, and we had these old barns that we weren't using. They used to be the lambing sheds back in the day. I was slowly trying to get rid of the sheep, so it all fitted in really nicely. But it was sort of our first foray and like first real expenditure, like big expenditure, especially when we get up to the arena, that wasn't based around farming. It's the biggest issue we have with the access to finance. Like, we're tenants, like accessing finance is really difficult because we haven't got stuff. We can't just put it against 500 acres of Herefordshire because we don't have it. So banks will lend. You know, if you've got a good business plan, they will lend. But it's not as easy as if you say, right, I want to borrow 250,000. I've got 500 acres, so we'll just put it against that.
Yeah.
That is easier. You still got to have the cojones to go and do it. But yeah, it's that initial investment, and all of these startup projects, whether it's, I don't know, glamping, horses, whatever it is you want to do, they've all got a huge outlay. And then you sort of come back and you're like, well, actually, I've just bought a new combine second hand. We share it with someone else, and that's a really important part of our business. But like, that's 150 grand that's sat in a shed doing nothing for 11 months of the year. And I'm happy with that. Like, I don't want to not have a combine. So we're going to spend under half of that on something that has a recognised business plan that does work, that uses Annie's expertise to start off with, something that A, she's blooming good at, and B, keeps her happy. And it makes, like, when we got married, she lived in Hampshire. We didn't live together before, not because we're particularly religious or anything, but just because her business was there, my business was here, and we made it work. Her moving here, it was really important that she was made to feel like it was going to be her yard. And that's sort of, I suppose that's more, I'm such an advocate for family farming. I love it. I love the fact that we get to do this. I've got my mum and dad down the road. I've got India, who's fascinated by farming. Like, that for me now is all I think about, is that how can we make sure that this farm is still here in 40 years time so she can take over. I'm a farmer, so it'll be about 50 years time and I'll be dead. But you know, that's what I think about now, and that's changed hugely from when I took over, when Dad was here. He didn't have to do all these extra bits and bobs, and I think that's the really, really important part.
Yeah, I think you mentioning family dynamics is actually really important as well, because obviously I'm on a family farm at home, which is the best job you can have, but sometimes it's tricky working with family. So as you say, if you can keep people, keep everybody within the family happy and financially stable as well. I think we forget that sometimes, that farms also have to break even and profit.
There's now 3 generations running off 500 acres in Herefordshire, and that's more difficult. So now obviously I've got mum and dad, I've got us, and now we've got 3 little ones. Suddenly that's a huge draw on a business that hasn't expanded particularly, not in acreage size, but it's trying to make that work. I mean, keeping family dynamics is hard at the best of time. Best thing I ever did when I came home, I moved in, graduated from university, came back, moved in. Like, my dad's older, he's 86 now, he loves it when I mention his age, but he's 86 now, or 85, turning 86. And so he was older, so my succession was pretty much nailed. So it was always going to be me, but I moved into the house and we did harvest, and we quickly realised that if we were going to work together, we had to live separately. And so I moved out down to another house down the road, which mum and dad now live in, and then 2012 we did the big switcheroo. But being able to go home and having that time away was vital. So otherwise we'd kill each other. We would kill each other.
Yeah. When you talk about succession, I know in kind of my generation it's a massive talking point at the moment. Obviously sounds like probably not completely seamless, but there was a kind of plan. But more and more, there's lots of people who I know my age, and unfortunately there hasn't been a plan put in place, and they're now really suffering the effects of, well, I guess just the uncertainty. They probably had their hearts set on working in the family farming business, and now actually it's not really a viable future for them.
Yeah, succession is so tricky, especially now, and especially more so I think if you're an owner-occupier. Obviously, land value is massive. So if there's, I don't know, 3 of you that all, or actually probably worse if you're all interested in the farm. It's easier if someone isn't, because then you can work out a business plan to potentially take over, buy them out, whatever that is, how that's going to work. But it's so important we talk about it. It's so important that, like, I had a plan, and my route in was easier than most because Dad was older, he wanted to retire, I wanted to take over, and there wasn't really much in my way apart from the landlords who wanted more rent. That was really what we had to contend with. It's way more difficult for others, way more difficult. But we've always been very open with our conversation that we've had. Like we've sat down around the table, and I think that's something that I've talked about before, is that however your family works, whether that's official boardroom meetings, whether that's a chat over a glass of wine in the evening, whether that's over we chat over breakfast, that's how we used to do it. It doesn't matter how you communicate, but if you don't communicate, that's when people get left in the lurch. And like, these conversations aren't easy. None of them are easy, which is why you have to do it where you feel most comfortable as a family. Because if you suddenly go, right, we're having a boardroom meeting, and you're a family that sits around the kitchen table, like, it's just going to put everyone stressful. Yeah. And then also, it really helps to get someone outside of the farm, just as an advisory role, just to sit there. Like if you're a business that runs in directors, like a non-exec would be how you'd look at it. But whether it's just an aide or like a friend, like a godfather for me would be a really good one, because he would sit there and take things out and that's again something that's really helpful, especially if you've got siblings that are being difficult. But if you own 1,000 acres of a farm and suddenly your siblings are like 10 million quid sat there, you're going to take it over and run a farm that potentially makes a profit if we're really lucky, maybe not. Or we could sell it and I could not pay my mortgage. And at the moment, like, that's hard work, like cost of living, everything else. Like you can see why people find it difficult, but at the end of the day, like, you don't get better than this for growing up, and that's something that is important as you get older and as you get to that sort of next step in life where you go, right, we have to make this work.
Yeah, definitely.
Who's this then, girl?
Who is it?
Toffee.
Who's this? It's Toffee. Who's Toffee? Is he your pony?
Toffee?
He's giving you a little tickle, isn't he?
Can I stroke Toffee? Yeah. Can you show me how? Wow.
You give Toffee a kiss?
He loves cuddles, doesn't he?
Oh.
Oh, lovely kiss for Toffee. Well done. You want to cuddle with me? You can have a cuddle with me. So who's your favourite pony?
No.
Oh yeah, no, don't. You just leave that there.
Never worked with children and animals, eh?
Yeah. Who's your favourite pony? Toffee, yeah.
Toffee's a firm favourite, isn't
And what are Mummy's ponies called?
Toffee and Poppy.
Toffee and Poppy? No, what are they called? Poppy and... Who's the other one?
Cooley.
Very good, Poppy and Cooley. And then Mummy's horses, aren't they? They're out at the moment because Mummy hasn't quite got enough time. Have you, Mummy?
there.
No.
Do you know when you're going to start back riding again?
Well, I've sort of given myself, so we'll go on holiday for a week in July, and then I'm going to bring them back in the week after, I think.
Yeah.
But then every week I'm like, oh, it's getting easier. Oh wait, it doesn't get easier. But no, they're out there just for a bit of time off, and also I just trying to get myself into a new system. And the problem is because I didn't ride when I was pregnant, so I sort of haven't ridden for a while, and I got into my head that I was like, oh, I don't need riding, and then I rode the other day and remembered that it's really what makes me tick. So.
And what sort of clients do you have? What sort of stuff are you teaching?
Everybody really. I mostly dressage, so I compete in dressage. That's my discipline.
Yeah.
So everyone from tiny tots. We have 3 roles at Pony Club, to ladies wanting to do some dressage. Yeah. A bit of everything. And Pony Club is my background, so I've sort of taught through them.
Yeah.
But anyone that wants to learn to ride, really. We're so lucky that I can do that and do all 3 at the same time, because if I had to go somewhere else or had to take sort of physical maternity leave, and then it just wouldn't function. So the beauty of the yard, the way we set it up, is that you can add horses, and then as I got pregnant we then slowly got rid of a few. So it just means you have to be on the peak seasons. We pick up and teach loads, and when I can't, I change nappies. You get very hot because you've got so much rain.
Hello.
So, and India loves coming, and absolutely that's what she misses as well, because she used to relentlessly do, when it was just the 2 of us, we used to do the yard morning and evening, and she used to sit and watch me teach lessons and ride, and I think she's missed out a bit on that, because the system never stops, whereas now in the morning, we change babies as opposed to actually coming out and doing stuff. So the last week or so, I think we've done a bit more, and she's loved it.
So it's just really important that you do something that isn't changing your baby's nappy.
Yeah,
just
it's-
like mental health is obviously
Yeah.
so vital,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
Annie comes back in from riding a horse for the first time 2 weeks ago, and suddenly,
I felt-
not that you were not
Yeah.
lovely the whole way through, but like you could just see the glow,
Yeah.
like that. She was back doing what she loves, what she's good at.
Yeah.
But you are like not defined by a role of mother.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like you are a
Yeah.
mum and you love
Yeah.
your kids, but also you're obviously a businesswoman.
Yeah.
You're obviously somebody who has passionate things and your own independence,
Yeah.
and I think that's really key that you're doing that.
Yeah, no,
you know,
really,
so-
and it is, and you change a lot when you have kids, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't change for the world, and I adore them, but it is, and also you build up a business, and it's taken me, I've taught for now 15 years, and I've built up a client base over 15 years, and to suddenly, and people are, they're very fickle, they don't stay with you when you obviously can't help them, so trying to like rebuild yourself every time is tough going. So actually that's quite nice, I've done 2 in one go, because then I'm like, right, done, now I can move back and do it again. But yeah, it is, and I love the horses, they've always been my passion, and I feel like I can live without them, and I can't. So what's the matter, Rainy Sue? It's time for lunch for you, isn't it? Should we get some words out? You want to go and find some eggs? Yeah?
Okay.
Well, last time we saw Dragon and he scared you, didn't he? So should we go and see if he's gone? Dragon's the duck.
Oh,
He is
He
terrifying.
He's not terrifying.
I hate him. So he's just the
He
one.
attacks Annie. He's so there's 5 of them. There's 3 drakes and 2 ducks, and he hasn't got a partner. So all the girls that come to the yard, as soon as they're cast out, he just attacks them and literally just pecks their foot. And Annie's not very good with flappy birds.
No.
India is now
And then the problem is
getting worse with flappy
the
birds.
more I flap, the more he flaps at me,
Yeah,
and
so-
then we have a standoff.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
go
all
and
right.
see if
Dragon's
he's gone.
gone. Yeah, Dragon's gone. He's on the transfer list, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have actually had to phone Ali at some point to try and.
He came in the
I
house
got
the
out
other
of the
day.
car and he just wouldn't leave me
Annie was
alone.
coming in with the twin carriers, and Dragon was following her in, pecking
just
at her
straight
feet.
through.
Come show
Go
me.
on then, go and have a
Let's
look.
go. Apparently it's a sign of affection, but I tell you,
I think it's just bored.
this is what he does.
It's only the girls. He's frustrated. Dragon. Yeah, you tell him.
We do a lot of this. Then he sees you and he runs him on.
Lovely and level, this field. So, it won't take much digging, and he put the laser up and he was like, yeah, it's 3.2 metres different here to there. And I was stood there looking at it going,
How?
no, no, James, you are full of not, that is no way. He's like, no. And then as they start to dig it out level, you're like, oh my God. So we ended up moving, was it 2,500 tonnes of soil to make it level? And I was like, I thought this was one of our flat fields. This is the worst thing. And then, yeah, put Annie's riding arena in, 60 metres by 25.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's the most expensive sand I've ever paid for in my life. Our soil type is sand, so I thought that was okay. It wasn't okay.
But I guess this is kind of integral to the business.
This
as
is
well.
it. This is Annie's happy place.
Yeah.
This you couldn't run what she runs and what she does without that.
Yeah.
So, and again, that was like back to that investment question. That's the investment right there.
Yeah.
And as far as I can work out, it's sand, which we have lots of, and a hole in the ground. And it's the most expensive hole in the ground in the world, but you can't do everything else. You can't make this business work without it.
Yeah.
So you've got to have it. You've got to have it there. And actually, it's busy. Like there's obviously somebody coming here to teach now, so it is busy. We hire it out, and it was the first time we ever went through planning permission for anything, because we'd never done anything apart from sheds, which are nice and easy because they're under. And Dad was like, just dig the hole, just build it. No one will ever know it's there. I was like, no, right, it's Annie's business. We're going to do this properly. We're going to do it properly. So we did. We went planning. We put it in. We were getting married in May. We put it in February. I was like, that's great. We'll have it by March, end of March, maybe April. We'll have it in by June. By the time we're married, it'll be being built. And by the time Annie's up here, done. September, after more, there was, I can't get into it in detail because I just get really cross. But there were so many bits and bobs that you're just like, this is the most ridiculous system. And I see actually Jeremy Clarkson's gone on Instagram today.
I was just about to say that.
Saying, you try and diversify, and then the local authorities are like, nah, mate, not a thing. So you're trying to improve your business, and then you've got some other step, and because you've jumped out of that farming bracket, You're then in amongst everything else. So then we get business rated on this, which we've never had to deal with before as farmers, which is a totally different conversation. But then suddenly you're like, business rates, Christ. And then because this arena is here and the stables are at the other side, we've got 2 business rates because there's a road splitting the 2, so you can't have it under 1. So then you come under small business rate relief, which is fine. So I've got the stables because they're on the farm, which is I'm the tenant. This is Annie's. But you're like, this is just all these extra there's the extra hurdles, and it costs us £9,000 to get planning for a hole in the ground. And the things they were complaining about were just, they were worried that, so where we're putting it here, obviously it's sunk. You can't see it from anywhere. They were worried that a canoeist on the river would be able to see it. And you're like, there's a dual carriageway in the way, and also about 100-foot elevation. I think horses were here before canoeists. So anyway, there was just all sorts of bits and bobs that all this box ticking. And we had to do a speed survey on this lane, which is basically us, 4 cottages which belong to the farm, and mum and dad. And I think there was 20 car movements a day at an average of 12 miles an hour. And you're like, that was £1,500 that was just totally and utterly pointless. But it ticked a box. And once I ticked the box, then we get
It's just jumping through hoops, isn't it?
It's just painful. And then the old man was obviously over the summer was just like, told you, should have just dug it. And that was the really frustrating part. We had a planning advisor who was great, because otherwise I would have got really cross. But a planning advisor who was great, and she was just like, they're stalling and they're bickering and they're making you do extra things, but there isn't a single planning point that they can refuse it on. There's nothing here that they can actually refuse it. They can make you do all these surveys because that's what they want to do, but there's nothing that they've brought up so far that means that they can refuse what you're trying to do. And you're like, okay, that's great, but why am I spending all this extra money if there's nothing they can refuse it on? So anyway, but so that was the first big non-farming diversification.
Yeah, and I think quite a lot of farms have the space and quite a lot of the infrastructure ready to do something with horses. Probably not the same expertise in terms of the teaching and everything, but still liveries, etc., are very successful. And it's a model, isn't it? But it's then having people on the farm. Yeah,
it's having people on the farm, which farmers in general don't like. Making them pay is quite hard work. Horsey people, which I'll get abused about, horsey people aren't notoriously the best payers in the world. But when they've got their horse here, obviously they care for their horses better than they care for themselves. So having livery is different because they will look after their horse more than they won't have showered for weeks, but their horse will be on the best food you've ever seen in your life. But like you work it out per acre on a livery, like I can't return that on my wheat. I can't return out what an acre's like. If you have a DIY, even on a DIY livery, a horse takes an acre of grass, has 1 stable. It's you're looking more per year than we could probably make on a decent wheat crop. Maybe not now, but like in normal times, whatever that is. As I saw on Twitter the other day, oh how I wish for precedented times, but like in normal times potentially. So it just makes you look at things differently. But then I love having people on the farm, which is why we moved on to our next bit, which is the glamping. I love it. I love having people here. I love the enthusiasm. Let's go and have a look. Open Farm Sunday, which obviously just happened, which I love. I'm obsessed with it. I think it is the best thing that farming has ever created because it gets so many. Was it Michael Sly yesterday? 12,000 people on his farm. Like he does it, but that is unbelievable. And like we've done it a couple of times. We had 300 the first time, massively underestimated how much parking we needed. 500 the second time, and we had weather like this, which was great. But you're knackered at the end. But you've just got people have actively chosen to come to a farm. The way I do it is, the way I see it is, I'm not going to preach at people. I want them to come and have an enjoyable day. And if they've had an enjoyable day, they may take one nugget of information home. And I may have got that nugget right. It's unlikely, but I might have got that right. So that is just, and like kids playing in wheat and like kids around the farmyard, and you stress about all these things that you need to do. And just having those people on the farm is just amazing. I love it. I love it.
And one thing I think is amazing about children who haven't grown up on a farm, they're just amazed by what they see in it. I would say it's quite reassuring as a farmer. The next generation aren't switched off to farming. They learn to switch off to farming going through life and social media and etc. So if we can, not target them, but younger children, if they can learn about farming and get these experiences on farm when they're young, it's kind of invaluable for they're our consumers of the future.
Well, that's a huge thing that we've done. We've done training with the NFU for Farmers for Schools, so we can go in schools and do kind of like talks and educate children as best we can, really. So I'm excited for that.
You've got to, start them young.
You have got to start them young, and also you've got to like there's, without getting into like the politics of it all, there is there is a disconnect between it, because we have been so fortunate that if we want food, we walk into a supermarket, we pick it up. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. If there's a 2-for-1 offer, I'm on it. I'm like, that's a red sticker, I'm here. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. I obviously try to make sure that we buy everything from the UK, but sometimes that isn't realistic. And I'm not here to be like, right, everything you buy is British. It has to be. We're in an amazing situation that we are in a country where we have year-round supply of everything, and because of that, but a lot of that is because of imports. And I like avocado as much as the next person, but if there is the option, we should be doing that, and we should be giving we should be giving children, parents, the opportunity to make that decision. And that's what I think is important, not forcing it down their throat, saying, right, you have to buy British because we're better than everybody else. Yeah. It's a case of saying, this is why we do what we do, and we think our product is this good. If you then choose the product because actually you can't afford to pay an extra 50p a kilo, whatever that is, that's absolutely fine. But I've given you that option, I've given you that opportunity to understand why we believe that this is better than what you're buying. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Should we have a look?
Come and meet Bertha. Bertha was not meant to be her name. Mum called her Bertha, and I was like, we are not calling our horse Bertha. It's a horrendous name, and it just one of those things. Once you say it too many times, it just sticks. So, obviously it's in with the riding arena. I always wanted to do some glamping stuff. I always wanted to have people on the farm. Obviously, managed to time it slightly wrong, but then just about right by the time everything released. And this lorry was annoyingly living in Ledbury, which is what 5 miles up the road. And I saw it on eBay, and it was just before there was just other stuff going on, and I was like, no, can't buy it. And then it reappeared 6 months later on eBay again in Manchester, and I bought it. Fortunately, for the same money, we bought it, and some chap drove it down. He's like, right, you just got to drop me off at the train station. I was like, you sure you're going to drive? He's like, yeah, no worries at all. I've got these plates and I can drive it. So he drove it down, and then we spent the next year converting her. So we got a guy up the road who does shepherd's huts. I went up and I was like, fancy a challenge, and he was great. Steve did a brilliant job, and he was like, what are you going to do with the bathroom? I was like, you've got to put the bathroom inside. There's not enough room. I was like, I really want to put a bathroom in a trailer, and Steve looked at me and was like, absolutely not. No way in hell. I was like, well, I've already bought the trailer. So I towed it up there, and we got up there, and he was just, actually it was featured on board Mucky. He got up there and he was like, right, so you want a full bathroom in here? I was like, no, I don't want a bath. Right, okay. But it works, and it makes it what it is. It makes Bertha what she is. So, so this is her. We'll do the bathroom first because I talked about it. It's got a better shower than our house, which is disappointing.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice.
I feel like that's luxury, you know.
Isn't it?
The first review, so Annie, bless her, she was doing all the changeovers to start off with when we first started, and all the reviews were like, I can't believe how amazing the shower is. There was nothing about how nice the pillows had been done or anything like that. It was all about how lovely the shower was.
Oh, it's great.
That is luxury,
isn't it?
And it's turned out really well.
Well.
Yeah,
look at the shower
overhead.
I'm like,
You got to have a dustbin lid.
Yeah.
Got to have a dustbin lid.
I love it.
So and then the Bertha, and then in here is everything else. Got people coming in tomorrow.
Oh, it's lovely in here.
Oh my gosh.
Warm, isn't it?
This is
warm.
nice.
And look at the view as well, looking out there.
I know.
So you've got king size bed over there.
Good job.
Bit tight on the old head height.
Well, it's authentic.
It's authentic. And then sofa bed here, so we can sleep 4, which I was really important because I really wanted, again, kids. I really wanted families to be able to stay, so we can sleep 4. It's hilarious because we get quite a lot of families, and I always come up and say hello to everybody, and I'm like, so guys, who's sleeping in the bed? And without fail, the parents are like, yep, we're on the sofa bed, and the kids are like, we're up in the top, we're up in the top. So it's
amazing.
great.
But on a normal box, that is a
That's
bed
all the space,
up there,
isn't
it?
it? And it's really comfy.
Yeah.
We always said we were going to stay in it, and then India arrived, and we've never actually managed to stay up here yet. But
I think as well, it's like we were talking, having the doors open, you're straight out into
when you open this, you literally just walk straight up onto the big old deck, and then you've got the view out the back.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I know, and a day like this as well.
Oh yeah,
Get
and
me
for people that just
one.
left the week, they left yesterday morning, and they're like, we should have booked an extra night.
So nice.
Some labour.
So this was our first foray into glamping, and she's been awesome. She has been awesome. I treat her like a person as well, and mega. It's bizarre. So we'll have a quick wander up to the shepherd's huts as well. So we built this first. It went really well. Wanted to do a second one. Also, we were being filmed for Mucky Series 2. We managed to get this featured, which was huge. Like when we did First Time Farmers, I was 25. I was like, TV, this is great. This is going to be really cool. I just want to be on TV. I don't really care about anything. And then the TV program came out, and it had quite a following. Like by the time Series 2, it was watched by 1.2 million people. Had nothing to sell. So suddenly you develop a following, but no one's going to come and buy a ton of wheat off me. So like the other guy, big guy called Robbie, who was in Series 1 and 2 of Born, he had of First Time Farmers. He was selling pork.
Yeah.
Suddenly his website, his like basic website, was just selling out of everything. But, and that was something when we did Born Mucky, I was very aware of. I was like, yes, I want to do it. I like the premise. I like the idea of what they're trying to create as a program. Discovery do things the same, I suppose. So the Discovery, if you watch anything on Discovery, any of their channels that revolves around sort of any reality, is idea, problem, solution. Every episode's geared the same. So there's a bit of artistic license in quite a lot of it. I was like, right, okay, we've got to get this featured. And they're like, oh, right, you're building a bathroom, that's fantastic. There's going to be huge amounts. So there was huge amounts of problems with that. They loved it because there was problems, and I'd go up and see Steve. He's like, there's no way it's going to work, and they love that sort of thing. And that was really good. And then when we were filming Series 2, I was like, right, this has gone really well. Obviously COVID hit, but then the Great Staycation started, so it was full. Like, let's do another one. Classic farming thing, like, let's just keep going. More people, there must be more people. And Born Mucky were like, nah, we don't like the word glamping. We don't want to film it. I was like, that's really bad. And I was like, okay, what happens if we build it in our grain store? Oh, what, you're going to build it on farm? And suddenly, like, okay. So you changed, and that was something that I got way more savvy about the more you got into it. You have to make these things, because we got paid for Born Mucky, not a great deal, but we got paid, whereas First Time Farmers we didn't. And you think there's a lump sum, you're like, that's all right. And then suddenly you realise that we are filming for 9 months every day. There's 2 camera crews going around, there's 3 farms, so basically you've got 1 week on, 2 weeks off. 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So you're filming a hell of a lot, and like filming days are a lot. This is way easier because we haven't had to walk through the door 18 times to get in and out. And you earn your cash and some. Like if you work it out hourly, it works out worse than farming, I reckon. But it did seem. But also it helped me pay for bits and bobs of this, and that was really important. But having something to sell, and then they booked out to start off with through Born Mucky viewers, and suddenly that then snowballs a bit. Like Bertha went viral on Facebook because of the bathroom. There was one photo of the bathroom that people just went mad for, and like suddenly overnight it had 500,000 views, and you're like, I've tried to get viral a lot. Like, I like my social media. And you didn't think it was going to be a bathroom? I never achieved it. And suddenly,
it's just
bizarre.
One person, one picture, it can make a huge difference. And something you think was like, that might do really well, and that probably won't, but I'm going to put it on anyway. And it flies, and you're like, how? What did I do?
Literally, I had that stable door half open with the stable half top, and you could see the bathroom. The lighting had just worked bizarrely, and suddenly the whole post just gone. And then Airbnb took the listing down because they thought it was getting spammed because everyone was clicking on the link. And so I had a long conversation because you can't ring anybody. And they thought that they had been hit by a bot, and people were just spamming it, and it was purely because that in 24 hours more people had clicked on it. And like the insights on it, and you're like, oh my god, this is incredible. And it was booking, and it was awesome. It was really, really cool. So and then people come and stay, and that's terrifying, like terrifying. We had our friends that come and test both of them, bless them, as a soft launch. And like Tom was like, make sure you put an extractor in the bathroom, which we did, all the rest of it. And they're like, no, it's really good. And then you have your first real guest, and you're like,
because that's what you think.
I'm gonna put some strawberries in the fridge and make sure it's. And will they be nice? And you have no idea who these people. And like, I've never used that. I've never been an Airbnb before. So, and then they turn up and they love it. And thank God. And then suddenly now we're 2 years down the road. We've had over 200 different families stay. We've had 1 4-star review. Everything else is 5. And the 4-star review is because her dog wasn't very well trained and it could jump between the gap in the fence and chase a rabbit. And you're like, I'll take that, fine, whatever. It makes us look more realistic at 4.97 than it does at 5. And you realise that actually, like you say, like the things that, and we were talking about before we started, like we sit inside our 500 acres and we look out, we sit inside our ivory town, we look out, and all I see is problems because that's the way I'm built up. So I'm like, dual carriageway's too close, I'm not going to be able to get off the road. It's so noisy up here, it's going to get in the way of the farming. People and horses don't work particularly well, and all these things. And you go, actually build it, people come, and all the things that you've thought about, no one's ever mentioned. All it is in the guest book is how much they love the view, how much it's lovely that they can walk to a pub, how much they love waking up looking at horses, all of these things that you're there going, and like Mum was like, no one's going to want to go to the loo outside. No one's ever mentioned it. And it's amazing how your mindset then changes, and you can go, actually wasn't a terrible idea.
It's massive.
So that
This is lovely. And then I was like, oh, it's huge.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to do with the next one. I wanted to make it 2 shepherd's huts because I wanted it to be different, but also, again, with Mum's idea about not having to go outside to go to the loo, linking them was something, and we deliberated about how to link them. In the end, we basically train carriaged it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's amazing.
it just gives you more space. So, like, say if you get a wet weekend, at least you can shut off from different places. So yeah, so you got the same again. It's exactly the same setup. You've got king size bed there, and then there's a double sofa bed. But it works really nicely with kids as well because they can stay in there, but you can shut the doors.
Yeah.
That's the other thing with Bertha. If you come as a family, you're all in one space, so you basically have to go to bed at the same time. Whereas unless you can sit outside, whereas here you can shut them in there and you can still watch TV, have a glass of wine, whatever it is, and yeah, it's just a point of difference having the sky bridge, as I call it.
Good idea though, because as you say, that
makes
is
it makes it a bit different. It makes it, and it does mean that you've got enough. You've got loads of space really, which is great. And yeah, it was a massive learning curve building it.
I can imagine.
It was really rewarding actually, especially like with the sky bridge idea, because we were going to have them sort of at this angle, and then that took out that wall there. It was really difficult to try and work out how you could link them, and then this wasn't perfect, but it meant that you could actually, and like people like going through the bathroom to get to your bedroom, that's really weird. I was like, well, it's just like having an ensuite, isn't it? So it doesn't really, and you can get to it from both sides, which is really important. And yeah, just makes, it's just something different. And then and then you've got the view of the hayfield, and that's why it's called Shepherd's View, because there used to be sheep on there when Mum had her way. And yeah, so she's awesome. Really, really cool. I like it. Hasn't got the personality of Bertha, just because it's not a lorry that's jacked up on some sleepers. But it's really nice. We come up here and we're like, why are we living where we're living? And like, this is way better. As I have no view at all as we look out of the dual carriageway. But so it's been really cool. So yeah, again, like, and you can't see Bertha, and I really like that. So if we put one in the middle, you could see all 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's because it's exactly what I said before. We're used to what we're used to, so space is huge. Whereas people come out and like the things that say the most is, it gets really dark at night, doesn't it? And you're like, yep, it gets really dark at night. Not used to it. Totally not used to it.
I also think that there's enough space. Like if you did put another one, I don't think people would really think
and you could do some hedge. You could screen out,
and
that would be the most sensible thing.
Definitely, I don't think
because otherwise, like putting electricity, like every time you make a new electricity connection, it's like 10 grand, and then put water in, that's another 5 grand. Whereas it's all here already. So actually, all we need to do is run a wire straight up. We've got the sewage into a septic tank. And that's all done. Yeah. So
I don't know. People would think it's too close.
No, neither do I.
I don't.
I think it's only because we're not used to having neighbours.
When you've got new builds that are like,
oh yeah, absolutely,
this kind of
this will be a luxury to be that far away.
Never has. I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be commercially. I'm banned from projects for a year, so I'm not allowed to do any projects. Annie has banned me. She's like, I think we've got enough going on.
Yeah, just a couple of babies
just a couple of twins
to deal
and
with.
a toddler.